Hi, I'm Dr. Wajida Small, Purpose Alignment Coach and host of Leading with Purpose, a podcast for career and entrepreneur women of color on the rise into positions of leadership and influence in their organizations and businesses. Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Hello, and welcome back to the Leading with Purpose podcast. In this episode, we will be talking about culture and multiple roles. And today we have a special guest with us, Miss Christine Cariño. Welcome, Christine. I'm happy to have you on today.
Hi, Wajida. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So now, before we jump in, I want to make sure I introduce you to our guest. So Christine is a passionate, intuitive, and empathic coach committed to empowering people to live a life aligned with who they are and help them lead consciously so they can fully thrive. She is the founder of Conscious Thrive LLC and received her coaching diploma from New York University. She is a proud queer identified as non-binary with pronouns she, her, and hers, and an immigrant. She is also the creator of Living an Empowered Life as an LGBTQ+, a workshop which she facilitated in partnership with LGBTQ+ organizations in Athens, Greece, and Manila, Philippines. She's also the creator of Course Impact Through Life brand, formerly Uncover Your Life brand, a 5-week interactive virtual workshop that helps people create their signature impact so they can live a life of meaning, intention, and joy. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited about our conversation. But prior to, oh, hold on, I missed something. I'm sorry. So yes, want to take a step back. Prior to becoming a personal and leadership transformation coach, Christine spent over 8 years in corporate America as a recruitment and staffing strategist, where she coached professionals throughout the hiring process and advised business leaders in healthcare, IT, finance, and nonprofit industries of staffing and retention strategies best fit within their organization's needs. So now I'm going to re-thank you again for joining me. I'm really excited about our conversation. But before we really kind of get into it, I want to start by reading a passage from my book. It's called Our Leadership Journey, Shared Stories, Lessons, and Advice for Women of Color, which is currently on pre-sale. So, how we are brought up by our families and communities leaves a great impact on how we see the world and how we see ourselves. Our upbringing is what instills in us morals, values, and the expectations that we have of ourselves, our families, and society. Relationships within family and community are highly valued. This is evident in how women of color network. Within the families and communities of women of color, family is above everything. Women are expected to take on certain roles to ensure the family is sustained. Because of these cultural expectations, women who are career focused often find themselves facing conflicts when their personal aspirations don't match what is deemed best for the family. These conflicts are often internal by way of guilt and can sometimes be external by way of family turmoil. These conflicts can prevent women of color from emerging as leaders, as they may consciously choose not to take on certain roles to ensure they will meet family obligations and avoid conflict and feelings of guilt. So now, Christine, I want to start I want you to tell us tell us about your background, your upbringing, talk about, how it was growing up in the Filipino culture, the Filipino household, and like the expectations on you as a girl and this concept of, having various roles within your family.
Yeah. First, again, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for having me, and thank you for the important work that you do. So I was born and raised in the Philippines from a very, not very, but a conservative middle class household. My dad came to America when I was 2, to pursue a better job, to support our family. And I was mainly raised by my mom. I didn't meet my dad until I was 18, when he finally got the opportunity to come home and visit. But in Filipino households, from middle class to upper class families, we culturally, there's a nanny that helps out and support the family. And my mom was also a very busy businesswoman at that time. So that's the dynamic that I grew up in. Expectations wise, I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. No cooking, no cleaning, no laundry and all that stuff. But what were expected of me, to go to school, get good grades, and follow the rules. Pretty much. And
Yep.
I tried to keep that until like early high school, and then started breaking out of the expectations. So following the rules as a female in a very patriarchal society was definitely something that was imposed at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand it growing up. I was the third of 4 children and the middle of 2 boys. So you can only imagine. Yeah. So whenever I would get in conflict with my older brother, my mom would say, "He's your older brother, you have to listen to him." And whenever I would get in conflict with my younger brother, she would say, "You're older than him, you should be more understanding."
Yeah.
Should be more understanding, you should know better. And again, I was confused. It's like, why is it always them, not me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then also there is colorism in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the darker skin among the sisters. So I was always compared going to family parties or gatherings and stuff. It wasn't directly said to me that I was ugly, but she's just the prettier.
Mm-hmm.
So receiving that at a young age, and that's pretty much, how you perceive life or see your role. I took it as an identity of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And what it created is the idea that I'm inferior because of that dynamic.
Yeah.
And I also, it was also very religious. And I knew at a young age that I was different, but I didn't have the space to explore that. Because what the Bible said is it's morally wrong, period. No questions asked.
Yeah.
Let's move on. And, for a very long time, I actually suppressed it, suppressed that identity of me, and really just kept on ignoring it. And yeah, and but mainly the idea of being inferior has definitely emerged in how I interact with people, especially in the workplace. And that was something that I had to heal from. And again, that was like something that I didn't know at that time until I went into a soul searching and soul healing. And I had to, do all the work that I've done to become emotionally, spiritually and mentally.
I can well, I agree with a lot of things that you said. I'm actually the middle girl between 2 boys. I think the difference is though, I was just a very bossy child. So, I, bossed, my brother around, and the difference but similarity. So, you know, America, very patriarchal society. But just kind of like my family and my family's history is very matriarchal. So, you know, the women have always had you know, the hands that made the decisions, you know, and just at the same time, when you were also talking about, you know, having darker skin, you know, colorism, racism, all that is just rampant in America. And just, you know, just a point of similarity definitely challenges in general as a dark-skinned woman. And, you know, the point that you made about like with your family, you know, for me, I found it on both sides. You know, I had family members that, you know, would marvel when they saw me at my skin and just tell me how beautiful I was. But then I also had family members that would crack jokes about how dark my skin was and how that can actually like really impact you deeply in terms of, you know, how you feel about yourself. So I just wanted to interject kind of like where I saw some similarities, but I want to go back and I want you, so you mentioned there were, you know, a lot of rules, right? You had rules from a society perspective, and you mentioned kind of, you know, men being dominant and the challenges you had with your brothers, and then the religious rules, and kind of how that dictated how you were able to kind of move throughout your life. So if you could talk about kind of what those rules are, or, you know, specific kind of morals and values you were told that you were supposed to have, and how you kind of were able to, or if you were able to manage following those rules, you know, maintaining those morals and values when you saw the conflict with how you felt and what was making you happy as a person and how you wanted to live.
Yeah. Again, those rules for me were very embedded at a young age, and I was breaking out of it, of those rules. And specifically, again, you know, those follow your brothers or be more understanding. Um, and that were the things that I broke out of. Because my mom definitely was a very strong woman. And, you know, growing up with just her in the household and seeing how strong she was, of course, I would like mirror that. But you do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's like very conflicting values around that. Like, you have to be strong. You can't cry, you know, and showing emotional, your emotions is not really as accepted in the household. You know, don't cry, stop crying.
Yeah.
And so I was raised to be strong and courageous, and have that, my mom as a mirror of that, or as a model. And yet some of the things that were said or instructed upon me were just, again, conflicting. So navigating that, and that you would see that in my life. Right? It was all about, how do I really show that I'm strong and yet be in this paradigm of rules.
So now, was there a shift from, you know, when you went from the Philippines and you're now here in America? So again, patriarchal society, but very different environment. How did you make that shift, and where did you see the differences in terms of the the expectations or what was considered allowable for you as a woman there versus here?
Oh, it's not only as a woman too. So I was just stunned by how women act or the roles that they play in America.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more freedom, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I know it's a very controversial issue, but if you see it in comparison to what we have, what I was raised with,
Mm-hmm.
and what I pretty much have perceived in my life growing up, I didn't have that much freedom in comparison to what America has. And also, you know, being gay in America is so different as being gay in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
So different, you know, and that absolutely shifted my perspective on, oh, I can, because I don't feel alone here. I can because other people have done it, and look at them, you know. So that really shifted my perspective on what I can achieve and what I can do and the roles that I can play moving to America. And as someone who came here, I came here with my mom in 2010. And I'm turning 10 years old this year.
Happy birthday.
November 2010. Thank you. November 2010, I came here with my mom. And we really had to restart our lives. And I didn't know anyone. I had $100 to my name. And I spend so much time thinking of what I'm going to do here because I didn't really see this life in my path at all. You know, it was my dad calling and saying, hey, you're going to America. I'm like, wait, what? I've never been to America before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a complete shift as well. And then the roles has changed because now I'm here and my family is back home. So that responsibility I also took for me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for my family, and knew automatically that I now have an obligation to support them.
Mm-hmm. Which you didn't have before.
Yes, right.
So how were you able to manage? So now you didn't have that responsibility when you were there. When you came to America, you now had a new responsibility in terms of an obligation to take care of your family. At the same time, you had much more freedom to be yourself, be able to do almost anything that you wanted. Were you able to, and how are you able to balance now having to take on more responsibility, but also having more freedom? And were they in conflict? How did that impact you? You're here now, but now your role has shifted, but you're in a space where you're not as confined.
Mm-hmm. I think it gave me so much power too. Definitely. That shift for me allowed me to fully stand in my identity. Mm-hmm. It was like a prerequisite. It's sad, but it is.
Yeah.
You know, it was my prerequisite. Mm-hmm. So, well, since I'm supporting my family, I can be gay. Mm-hmm. You don't have the say on this because I'm doing this. But that also subconsciously embedded imposter syndrome on me. So
imposter syndrome.
Right. So you have that inferiority complex that dances with imposter syndrome, mm-hmm. and that superhero syndrome, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's definitely it. Because I never ask for help. I just take on everything. Okay. Even at work, that mirrors together too. Like, okay, I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take all these things and just do it. I can do it on my own. I will persevere. I will. Yes. So, um, it was definitely a shift, but also your ego, my ego
Mm-hmm.
was building all these automatic from where I came from,
Mm-hmm.
and the roles and responsibilities that I now play um, in that shift or in that journey.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask two questions. So the first question is, you mentioned that you were now taking care of the family, so they had no choice but to accept.
They had.
Well, no choice in the sense that you were able to be more free and again less confined, and there was a reliance on you. So at least in my head, I took that as you are now, relying on me. And of course you're doing your family duty, but part of you being you and you taking care of part of you being able to take care of your family means you being in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And you being in that good place is, or partly, what plays a part is the acceptance, because at some point you weren't able to really just be who you are, be your authentic self. And research, all these things show that when you are able to show up who you are, be authentic, you thrive.
Yes.
So the first question is, was there more acceptance, and how was that transition, um, you know, for you, and being able to at least tell yourself, even if you, or even be able to express to your family the need for more acceptance in order for you to be more whole, to be more present for yourself and for them. And then the second part, that still having that duality of the superwoman syndrome and the imposter syndrome, and really not just burning out from it, because you just, it seems as though you had to be another whole person when you got here.
Yes. I definitely have shifted. That's why I always celebrate my anniversary, because it's like a rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complete rebirth for me and complete shift. And it's something that I didn't really see as my path being in the Philippines. But your first question, um, it just allowed me, because I was able to stand in and present myself authentically, with the idea that, again, the prerequisite,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was more courageous to express myself to them, to tell them what I need for them to understand, or to communicate that better
Mm-hmm.
to them. It was a journey, and I can't even lie, it was not like overnight that, hey, this is who I am
Yeah.
because I'm doing this. You can't. No, there was a constant back and forth of my perception of life, why it's not the why, it's like who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of who I am and who I am in this world, what I want to do with my life. And it's either you want that or you don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just more resilient, more strong in that stand,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm if they say no, I'm out the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you know, there was a lot of education that I had to do, and sharing them of different information, and educating them around this whole thing for them to also be able to take that information and process it themselves.
Yeah.
But I have more peace with the fact that I'm able to stand for who I am.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I want to shift a little, and you know, you've gone through this tremendous journey, literally and figuratively. And so when you think about kind of all of the things that you've gone through, I want to talk about now, like leadership specifically, and emergence within the organizations we work with, the companies, et cetera. And prior to becoming a coach, you know, worked in corporate America. First, you know, has it impacted, has all of these things impacted kind of how you felt within these organizations? Generally, most of them aren't favorable to women of color and kind of impose their own, I'll just call them restrictions on, you know, allowing us to be great, if you will. So was there an impact on your experience within corporate America? Um, and what was that impact, whether negative or positive? And how did that experience, well, I'll ask those first. What was your experience like in corporate America? And did kind of any of these things impact you, how you were able to work, how you were able to grow within the organizations that you worked for?
Um, Definitely beginning of my corporate America years, the inferiority, as that perception was really subconscious in me. And it added the idea that being an immigrant is you are a guest, pretty much. You're a guest in this foreign land. You're 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 just not on the same level as Americans. And I accepted it, especially like that time. There were moments that I accepted that inferiority. You know, I remember this one time that me, like my colleague and I finally just shared our compensation. We were on the same level, shared our compensation, and I realized that he was earning more than me. And I was doing so much more. I was supporting multiple offices, you know, multiple people at the same time, and actually playing two different roles, acting two different roles in that organization. And instead of me asking why,
Which we never do.
yes, instead of me asking why,
Yeah.
I accepted that fully and said, oh, because I'm inferior, because I'm not from here. Maybe that's what it is.
So before you continue that, so still being in human resources, it still doesn't happen. And as a woman of color, just, you know, and sharing my experience as well, I always had the information. Just in the roles that I was in, I had access to the salary information. So I saw people's salaries, and, you know, I saw colleagues' salaries. And it was just kind of like, you don't say anything. And that kind of, it takes a lot out of you. It's very discouraging. But so very recently, I got promoted into the role that I am in. And, you know,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. I was talking to the individual that would be my supervisor. We were talking about compensation. And we, you know, we do the benchmarking, all of those things. And of course, me being in the position that I was in had access. So I knew what the two previous people who held the roles were compensated at. Both, one was a white male, one was a white female. And we were talking about compensation, and we gave the benchmark, and I said, well, you know, these two people came in making this amount. This is what the organization has traditionally given these people in this role when they come in the door. This is what I want. And then the individual that was supposed to be my supervisor proceeded to say, well, you know, I'm going to present a range to the CEO. And I'm going to start at the midpoint and, you know, go up to the point that you've asked for. And I said, why would you even start with something lower
exactly
than what I'm asking for? And he's like, oh, you know, well, you know, I want him to make the, you know, decision, just give him the range, but I'm also going to tell him, you know, what we've given other people, but I want to give him a range. I wasn't in a position to tell him he couldn't say whatever he wanted to say to the CEO. So he had the conversation with the CEO, and I think I was in a good position where the CEO knew me, the CEO knew my work. And when my supervisor presented him with what I asked for, the CEO said, why won't we give that to her? So I was able to get what I asked for, but the simple fact that he was going to take it upon himself to offer me, to even present that I should get something lower than, you know, my white counterparts was beyond me. And I think, so while I said, why would you do that? I didn't fight as much as I should have to say no. When you go in and present to him what I've requested.
Right.
Because what I've requested is fair. What I've requested is what is given to people in this position when they enter the position. And
exactly.
So just, and I think when I think about all of the kind of positions that I've been in where I'm either doing the same job, usually I'm doing more than the people that are making more than me. You know, and you've seen the statistics in terms of, you know, comparable compensation that women of color have, you know, versus their white counterparts. And I think women in general, it's 77 cents on the dollar. And as you kind of go, you know, move out of the white space, the number starts to get lower. And I've always questioned why we don't speak up more about it, especially when we deserve more, especially when we're doing more. But it's that imposter syndrome one, I think. And then the second thing is the socialization. Like, we're socialized to, again, believe that we're inferior, whether it's we're inferior as women, we're inferior as women of color, we're inferior as, you know, immigrants, we're inferior as being a part of the LGBTQ community. Anything that is deemed as different or other is automatically put into an inferior category. So back to kind of the question, did that impact your emergence? And when did you get to the point to say, you know what, scratch all of this, you know, I know what I deserve. I know what I'm capable of doing. You know, I'm not going to be afraid anymore.
Okay. I also want to add, there was this moment too, and not the imposter and inferior dance, when I was also offered a position and I passed on it.
Mm-hmm.
a promotion and I passed on it, right? And how that subconscious identity that we held, again, that was pretty much planted as we were younger, and the culture just drill on you going forward. So there was this moment in my career when I was recently hired. I was less than a year, but I performed so well. I brought in almost $1 million.
Wow.
In the company, and my boss asked me to come in her office with the COO. And he thought it was just like a regular congratulatory meeting. And I was like, oh, congratulations. And they pretty much asked me to lead the team. And we want to promote you and have you lead a team. And I was stunned. I was stunned. I wasn't expecting for that to happen so quick, because again, I wasn't a year in yet at that time. And I said no because of imposter syndrome. It was when I said, oh, well, I might fail as a manager leading this team, but also the dance between inferiority, because I said, no, there's someone else who has more tenure than me and is more deserving of this promotion. And not knowing, first of all, the value that we bring in to the table, bring on the table, and really fully embrace that. We can, the superhero, it's like, let's grind and grind and grind and do all these things to grow and grow and grow. But if we don't expand it and allow that leadership to fully emerge, for women of color, it's just really hard. Again, that's how do you take these things and yet play within these rules and that conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've gone through a metamorphosis,
right?
You've gotten to a place in your life where you are fully accepting of yourself, fully accepting of your power. And I want you to share with us how you got to that place and how you got to where you are now with leading Conscious Thrive and just really being in a space where you feel whole.
Definitely my journey in corporate America had contributed to that. I experienced burnout. After all these things that I have took on, and the things that I've done, and just the constant anxiety and the depression that I got into because I was giving so much of me to something that is not giving back to me. So it was taking so much. There was so many holidays that I had to miss, and all that, and waking up just feeling like I would get an email and my whole day is going to be ruined, and having that as the priority. It was absolutely something that I was thankful for, that I've gone through it, because it now allowed me to be where I am now. So I was at that burnout, depressed, had so much anxiety. I was sick like my health was also pretty much not as in a good, not in a good shape. So I was seeking. And also the question is like, is this it? Is this how my life is going to be? I don't want this for me. I don't want it. And I went into this whole healing process. I've gone to therapy, went to these personal development trainings and workshops, and that fully released me from all these identities that I held so close to my heart without me even knowing, and just embedded in me subconsciously, and didn't know that I was dancing with it until I finally had the awareness to identify it and shift the moment that I could. And that honestly changed my life. I was there's this, after that whole experience, I literally said, I'm gonna ask for a raise. And this is what I want. So I did. And then I also asked, I'm going to do part-time because I wanted to pursue other things. And I did that, you know, and I was able to have that clarity of communication, that ease. And I said, but I want more. I want more. So that really where the transformation and the full shift, the 360 shift.
Okay. So having gone through this, I would like for you to give our listeners, because how give us 3 ways or that you think that we can, and I like how you kind of like when you talk about like your course, 3 ways that you think we can live more with more meaning, intention, and joy.
So one is forgiveness and gratitude are key to moving forward. This is really where it all starts. Forgiveness allows you to break free from those mindset and paradigm that you've lived all your life from your childhood to now. It allows you to really free yourself from those memories that hold you captive, that hold you into your ordinary, saying that I can't do this because. Forgiveness is that freedom that you need, that we all need.
Yeah.
To release ourselves and let it go. It's not only for the other person, but forgiveness is actually for us. You know, we break those chains through forgiveness and gratitude. Yeah. And gratitude as well. You know, it's like I can go back to that painful moment in my life when I was sent to conversion therapy, and I can say thank you to that moment, because it allowed me to fully embrace who I am. It allowed me to connect to my pain so I can also connect to other people's pain. It allowed me to see and meet people where they are and their difference and their uniqueness and them as a whole. And allowed me to be more compassionate and to love regardless. To choose to love regardless, despite the pain and the rejection that's going to come. So that's 1. 2 is your purpose. Your purpose is within you, not outside of you.
I like that. Give us more of that. I like that.
Yeah, your purpose is within you, not outside of you. We go into this hamster wheel of, let me take this, let me take this, let me take that, let me search outside of me. But the place that we neglect to look is within. And that's where the treasure is.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to see every single gift that you were given, right? And you already know your purpose. Let's not lie to ourselves. We already know our purpose. You have an inclination of that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is not knowing your purpose. The problem is not having the courage to accept your purpose. And the power,
the truth.
Yeah, the power to fully believe that you can actually make that as a reality.
Mm-hmm.
You can fully realize that in your lifetime. And not knowing that you have that power is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last one is vulnerability is a superpower.
Okay.
100%. I love vulnerability in so much. You know, Brene Brown's whole talk about it and study. But vulnerability is what allowed me to grow and expand, because I could accept that I need some help, that I can ask for that help.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you're in a lifeboat and you're paddling on your own, you can only go so far paddling on your own, but
Mm-hmm.
you can go so much faster when there are people paddling with you.
Yeah.
So that's one. And the second, vulnerability allows you to tap into unconditional. I always say strive for unconditional, not selfless, because selfless sometimes deny and rejects the self, whilst unconditional.
Okay, you're schooling me now. I like it.
Well, like unconditional allows you to bring forth who you are as a whole and give from your overflow. Like what Lisa Nichols would always say.
Mm-hmm.
Give from your overflow, but you already know that you are giving as a whole. And sometimes selfless, we tend to actually not realize that we might not be giving from the heart, we're giving from the ego. So vulnerability,
yes.
vulnerability allows you to really show up as a whole and give fully, without the expectation, without string attached. It's just giving from the heart. And all of it.
That is amazing. I really just got schooled. I've never even, like, just this last part, the difference between selfless and unconditional. And that is all of this is really a huge mindset shift that I think a lot of us really have to take, because the way in which we see it and think about it is so very different. And I can just, and listening to you, like all of the little things are going off, like, okay, and just like I understand. I saw things in me, and just kind of like, the giving from the ego. And I think for myself, a lot of the time, it is like I genuinely want to give, but there are those times where it's just kind of like, it is very much about myself in that giving, and the ego, and how it's going to make me feel, or how it's going to make me come across, for whatever reason it is. But when it's always from the heart, like you're always going to feel good about it, because you can give and not always feel good about it. And it's the times that you don't feel good about giving, now that as I'm thinking about it, is when it's coming from the ego and really not from the heart. Because anything that's coming from the heart is going to make you feel amazing.
Absolutely.
And that's not always the case. Wow. Thank you. But before we go, I want you to tell us a little more about Conscious Thrive, what you do, your practice, and then tell everyone where they can find you, how they can stay connected and change their lives, really.
Yeah. So Conscious Thrive is a place for people to be fully aware of their thriving journey. And it's still in the beginning stages of its inception, and I'm so excited for where it's going to be. I'm launching a new product of consciously navigating job search in the job market, and also relaunching my course Impact Through Life Brand, which is going to be an interactive workshop where people process together. And I don't think any other courses do that. Mm-hmm. And I love that part because, you know, the in-person workshops, that was what I enjoyed the most, when we're processing together. Mm-hmm. And because of this online digital age, now you don't feel that interaction, but I wanted this to be interactive. So they'll have like exercises that they are doing on their own, and we're processing together and doing all these breakout rooms. It's going to be amazing. That's not coming until September, but it's probably when this podcast is launching or going to be aired. And do one-on-one sessions with me, www.consciousthrive.com. To find me, I'm also on Instagram at Conscious Thrive. Same as Facebook and LinkedIn with my name, Christine Cariño. Thank you
so much, Christine. So again, the website is www.consciousthrive.com. Instagram is at Conscious Thrive. And Facebook is, repeat that one more time.
At Conscious Thrive 8.
Okay, yes. And of course, make sure you follow the Leading with Purpose podcast on Instagram at Leading with Purpose podcast, as well as watching this recording here on YouTube. Yep.
Sorry, it's Christine C. Conscious Thrive. Sorry.
Facebook, Christine C. Conscious Thrive. And so again, follow us on Instagram. We are also on YouTube. Just search me, Dr. Wajida Small, and it's Living, Learning, and Leading with Purpose. And again, thank you so much, Christine. This was amazing.
Thank you.
I learned so much. I know the listeners and the watchers, it's time for us to shift. Mm-hmm. And you really given us some gems on how we can do that, how we can get over the imposter syndrome, how we cannot allow, cultural expectations or just expectations that are imposed on us by the many spaces that we have to be in, and not allow them to prevent us from really moving forward and living the life that we were meant to be. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And hopefully we will have you on again in the future, because I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Regina. And again, this is such an amazing place to just fully grow and feel empowered as a woman of color myself. You're doing such an amazing and important work.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening, and till next time. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It has been great sharing this space with you. I hope that you have taken what you've needed so you can share what you've learned, and that you are on your way to living, being, and working in and on purpose.